And now your host, Noreen McClendon.
So good evening, everybody, and this is Noreen McClendon. This is another great session of Free to Heal, where we are formerly incarcerated and loved ones, and we come together every week so we can heal the ravages and the scars and wounds inflicted on all of us from mass incarceration. And we encourage you guys to, leave us comments on our videos. Any topics you want us to discuss, let us know. But tonight, when I started off, now I got to remember what page it was in the workbook that I was. Oh, okay, I know what it was. I wanted to start at the beginning. I had a conversation with a young man on Sunday, and he has some very interesting views of the world, and he didn't know that the first relationships that you have, specifically with your parents, are going to affect you. They're going to affect how you have relationships with other people. And so it occurred to me like, wow, the fact that he didn't know that. But I'll read what I wrote in my Hurt People Highway, the workbook. It is said that the first experience with anything makes the most lasting impression on us. Now, and I'm gonna stop right there and say this, right? I know that it happens in almost any form or any arena, because I remember my brother telling me that unfortunately a lady that he wanted to date, the lady, her first sexual experience was an assault. Mm. And she wanted him to be rough with her because she needed him to be rough because that was her first experience, which is so tragic, right? But that is literally what she needed from him. And he said he couldn't date her because he couldn't do that. But again, so even in the negative sense, that first experience is very makes a lasting impression. It is also said that the relationship we have with our parents shapes our view of relationships and even the world. For little girls, the relationship with their father, and for little boys, the relationship with their mother does the following. It defines how they view themselves. And this is not to say that, like, for us as women, that our relationship with our mothers don't define us too. But it definitely, the relationship we have with our fathers, or the lack thereof, has an impact, right? So I've shared in my book that because my dad was emotionally unavailable. My dad had been a heroin addict and been through some things, and he was kind of closed off. And then I found out that there was some issues with my grandmother when he was growing up. But my dad, he loved me. He doted on me. He always told me he loved me. He told me he thought I was pretty. He told me he thought I was smart. All those kinds of things. So I don't think I ever really had that traditional low self-esteem. Like, I didn't think I was enough or whatever. But I did get the idea from him that if I didn't do the work in the relationship wouldn't last. I carried that into relationships with men, not even consciously, but subconsciously, which meant that I did a lot of work. And I didn't require a lot. Well, that's a problem. Because even if you're a giver most of the time, you got to receive at some point to keep the cycle moving. Otherwise, you stop the cycle and you go back the other way. So I was not requiring enough, and as a result, there was a lot of pain in relationships because I was a place to come get, but you didn't have to give nothing. Right? You could get what you needed from me, but you didn't have to leave nothing. And of course, it would inevitably fail because I didn't have traditional low self-esteem. So at some point, it'd be like, huh, fuck. What about me? You know what I mean? And so like I said, it was a cycle. But the other thing that the relationship does is it teaches children to value or devalue themselves. So if you have parents who are critical of you all the time, negative towards you, then you begin to devalue yourself. If you have parents who tell you that you're good and that kind of thing, and that you deserve this, or whatever support you, then you learn to value yourself. But it starts in the home at a very young age. At a very, very young age, we get cues. One of the things I talk about, how I started with all this, not worrying about how I felt and mostly being concerned about the men in my life, was when my grandmother took us to visit my dad in the first inpatient drug treatment facility he was in. And my nana said, "Well, he's sick, so you guys got to be on your best behavior." Now I'm less than first grade, so that means I'm under 6 years old. Okay, and because I know I wasn't in school yet, but in my mind, I processed that to mean it doesn't matter what I want or need from him. I got to be good and make sure he's okay. And when we got there, he had on hospital clothes, but he was the same. So I guess in a child's mind, like, he laughed. My grandparents, they all played pinochle, all that kind of stuff. But in my head, I guess I processed it that it didn't matter what I needed or what I felt. I needed to make sure he was okay and be on my best behavior and not ask for nothing. That's the mind of a child under 6 years old, right? It don't mean it was true, but that's how I processed it. And so there are a lot of times where people don't realize what you say to children, how they receive it. Like, we might think we say it one way, but the kids hear it a totally different way. And then how it relates to them. And if there's no real conversation about that, then um, children are left to whatever they think and not really having any real understanding. It also shows them what behavior is acceptable between people that love each other and have chosen to be family to each other. So, in families where um, disappointment, loss, those kinds of things are only dealt with through aggression and anger and hostility and stuff, that's what kids learn from that, right? Some kids, they only learn to fight because that's all that they see. There's no other way to deal with it. How do you get over? How are you resilient? How do you get past a hurt, or how do you get past a disappointment? How do you get past being betrayed? Different, like, all of those things start in the home, and so that's why I ask a lot of questions in that regard. It provides a roadmap for how to behave in an intimate relationship. So, if you get an example in your household of a good, healthy interaction between a husband and a wife or whatever, then you will know what that looks like. I tell you guys all the time, I used to tell my son, you need to go and meet that girl's family sooner rather than later, because you want to see her interacting with her family, because then you're going to know how she going to deal with you, right? If all they do is scream and yell at each other and call each other names, trust and believe, when she get mad with you, that's what's coming to you. So a lot of times I know with guys, oh, I don't want to go meet the family. I don't want them thinking this, especially in our generation, because that was like, oh no, you don't want to meet the family till you really want to be with this person. But you need to see how they're going to interact with other people in their life, because that's going to tell you how they're going to interact with you. There's no way to get around that. Okay. So if a family, I know some people who didn't argue in front of the children, which is fine, but the parents never disagree with each other in front of the kids. And that's equally as bad, because now they don't have any idea how to have a disagreement. They don't even know what's fair. They don't even, it almost stifled their voices. Like, they didn't even know to say something to disagree, or that they had a right to disagree. I don't know exactly what all was going on, but I do know that they just didn't do it. Right. And I think it came from the parents not doing that in front of the kids. So, and I always said too, my mom, after my mom and dad divorced, separated because they didn't divorce for till years later. But once they separated, my mom didn't have men around us until I was really like a teenager. Um, but because of that, I had no example. I had no idea what it was supposed to look like, which was as bad as having a bad example. Because I was like a blank slate. I didn't know what to ask for. I didn't know. I didn't know nothing because I didn't know what it looked like. And then when she finally did get in a relationship, she was in an open relationship. And so it just gave me all these weird signals and stuff I just didn't have information for. And it created problems, and I'm thankful that I began to study spiritual things, which gave me an idea of what it should look like. Like that's where how I started to build my foundation on what I needed or what I expected in a relationship was through spiritual things. And that helped me a lot. Um, let me see, provides the guidelines for how to express love, caring, anger, disappointment, hurt, and a host of other feelings and emotions that arise in relationships. If we don't have an example, we don't know. And we don't know what we don't know. And most of the time, it's one of the reasons why my least favorite statement is, well, they should already know. How do people know? People are not mind readers. If you don't tell a person what you want, what you like, what you expect, there's no way for them to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not fair to expect that they're going to just know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then do what I say is punish people for what they didn't even know was a punishable offense. I didn't even know that you was going to punish me or that this upset you because you never said nothing because you thought I should just know. Well, where was I going to get the information from? If we talking about you, I need you to give me the information. Why? Because no two people are the same. So even if we had the same experience, like you can grow up in a household with the same parents, the same circumstance, and come out to be totally different people. I know there were 6 of us in my household, 6 children in my household, and all of us are extremely different. And some of us have similar views of our childhood, and some have way different than the rest of us. Like my mom took in my cousins, and she's the youngest of the girl cousins. And it's like she turned out weird to me. She turned out weird. She's a person in my estimation that spends more time or invests more in other people that are not family than those of us that are. And we weren't raised like that. Like, so me and her sisters, we were like, what's wrong with her? But we grew up in the same house. So I don't see, like, we don't know how she got like that. And then my brother that was deceased when he was young, he felt like he was the black sheep. And it was like, no, like you got the same love and care that everybody else did, but he was also the oldest of my mother's children, and he was a male, and he was the oldest male. So I think with that caused him to take on responsibilities in his mind that really wasn't his. Like he wanted to be, and that's where me and him used to fall out because you trying to talk to me like you're my father. You're not my damn daddy. My dad lived around the corner, right? And it's like, and I don't need you. And my mother never asked you for nothing. You ain't had to pay no bills around here. You ain't had to do nothing because my mother took very good care of us. Get up out of here, player. You know what I'm saying? So me and him, until I got to be about 14, I think the last time he hit me, um, he punched me in my chest so hard. Oh my gosh, it was just horrible. And I ran in the kitchen and I got a knife and I chased him around that whole damn house. And after that, and then of course I told my mother too when she came home from work and she let him have it. She was like, first of all, she's developing as a young lady. You cannot be punching her in the chest. But he did it for no reason. I'm coming down the steps. We live in the projects. I'm coming down the steps. He coming up and he just bam, like for no reason. He was crazy. Then he had nerve, if y'all can even believe this, he had nerve to wind up being a preacher. He was ordained in 2 different denominations. What you say, Monica? Wait. What was you saying, honey?
I said, oh shit.
Yes. He had the nerve to ordain in 2 different denominations. and wound up working with preachers all over the country. He's the one who started working on reentry in 1988 before anybody cared anything about it. And the way he got involved was he was dealing with churches. And what would happen is, what really was an issue was, this is by like 1988, men were coming home from prison, coming to the church and spreading AIDS.
Oh.
And that, along with Sister so-and-so's son is coming home and they don't have nowhere to go, but the church got property. So now they're doing reentry housing with no training, no money, no nothing. So he started working with the small to medium-sized churches to get them to, number one, advocate for policy changes for people in prison, but also help with services and help them hopefully, get some money to be able to offer this housing, since they had all this property. So he turned out to be a good guy, but it's crazy too, because I think about, it wasn't until his memorial service that I realized how really cool he was, because he was just my big brother, the one that used to lie and had stinky feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Now, of course, he grew up to be way different, right? And people had this other view of him, but he was still Binky to me. He was Reverend Eugene Williams III to them, but he was Binky to me. And even though I started working with him and we worked on like the GED initiative and all that stuff together, and policy, like, and I could see he was smart, but shit, so was the rest of us. You know what I'm saying? So that didn't stand out to me in no kind of way, But when he passed away, finding out like the man from the California Endowment talking about how he was the first person more than 30 years ago to say that gang violence was a public health issue. And the reason that that was important is that classifying it as a public health issue would allow them to bring dollars from the public health field to help the people that were involved in gangs. He was just brilliant. Like, he was real smart. He was the one, by the time he got to be in high school, he was like, I ain't going over there. They can't teach me nothing, Mom. I ain't going over there. He was selling weed like by 12. Like, I mean, this he led an extraordinary life. Let me just put a period on it right there. But he wound up going to an alternative school because he wouldn't go to the other schools. And then he said, forget it. And at 16 got a GED and went in the Navy. But he was really smart. And he's one of the people that makes me understand that sometimes the ones that people think are, bad and getting into stuff, they're really smart and they're bored. You gotta keep that brain going. So we lived on the hill. We lived on a hill, and my mother was the only. So we were like 3 houses from the last house.
Thank you.
You want turkey on it?
My
No.
mute for me, baby.
Oh, sorry.
Mute for that's okay. So, my mother had a friend who she let stay after like all my cousins and everybody moved out and everything. And she let this lady move in with us. And she had a car. And my brother he was about 12 or 13. He used to go out there and put that car in neutral and let it roll back down the hill, and then start the car at the end of the block at the bottom of the hill and be out all over. Who knows where he was going in her car. He about 12 or 13. Okay. Then, and what was crazy is she would wake up like, I thought I had more gas in my car. He done drove her gas out of there. And like I said, this the dude that became the preacher. And you wouldn't think that's, he never pastored a church, but he would go and speak all over the place and everything. And it's just funny. And I say that all of that to say, you can grow up in the same household and get all these different people because everybody's experience is different. One of the guys in CRC, I was telling him, he was complaining because his mom had been on drugs, and and now she had been clean for some years, but his sister wasn't ready to forgive yet. She wasn't ready to forgive. And so he was saying that she should, and I said, wait, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Her experience was different than yours. First of all, you a boy, she's a girl. The way that sons love their mothers is totally different than the way little girls do. Not that we don't love our mothers as girls, but it's totally different. Not to mention the fact you're the oldest, she's not. There's just so many factors that go into how a person perceives the same set of circumstances. So I'm gonna use this water bottle. On this side of the bottle, I could show you this side of the bottle, and I could tell you this has a whole lot of writing on it, and you're gonna say, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. But from where you sit, it don't have a lot of writing on it. But guess what? From where I sit, and guess what? Both things are true. What you're looking at really didn't have a lot of writing on it. What I'm looking at really did. But it's the same bottle of water. So it really is a matter of where you are. And then some people might say it don't have nothing on it. It just depends on where you're sitting and how you see it. And everybody, again, is different. So it's very important to be conscious of the fact that you're going to have to explain where you are, what you need, and how you feel, because everybody doesn't get what you get. Everybody doesn't see it the same way. Even growing up in the same household with the same set of circumstances, everybody is going to be different. And so it's important to be able to communicate. I want to ask, because I don't like it so much when I'm the only one talking. So I need feedback. I need to hear what y'all thinking. Somebody check in for me. Tell me what you're thinking. In the room. Okay.
Well, I see what you're saying about what we view, what we see our parents have, the relationship that they have. This is what it's like it's ingrained into your DNA. And thinking about all the relationships that I've had, I've chosen a man that reflects my dad.
We do. And
Yeah.
even if it's not the best example, right? Even if we still do at one level or another. We still do. And hopefully that's a good thing. You know what I mean? Hopefully it was a good thing, but and she said, but the cold part is not even conscious.
Yeah, I know.
I can guarantee you didn't go out and think, oh, he remind me of my daddy.
No, it's their traits. But my mom was saying the other day about my son that, he's having relationship problems. And she told him, you don't need to be with her. You're worth so much more. You know that she's never told any of me and my brothers that, but she told her grandson that. And I went, what the?
Where
Yeah.
was all that when I was young?
Yeah. I'm like, at 86 years old, she's exiting this world. She nurturing them like she never nurtured us. So she, that's her second chance. Those are my kids that she raised when I went away, and I've been here, for 22 years.
Right.
But it was amazing how it didn't hurt me. It actually said, okay, I'm glad you're talking to my children that way,
Yeah.
because we didn't have it.
Well, and part of it could be very much too that, as parents, we're normally on the grind. Like we're in the grind
Mhm.
of raising kids. Like, and we don't know what the hell we doing either. Right. There's
Yeah.
no manual, right? So maybe now at this age, and through dealing with them now, she learned some things
Yeah.
that they get the benefit of that you didn't get the benefit of.
Yeah.
And another thing, I'm gonna tell you this too. As a grandparent, you just like them better than you did your kids.
Right. Yeah. Because my first granddaughter is like, my son told me, in other words, I was so jealous of the love you gave her, because I don't remember this love from you. I said, well, you were too little to remember it.
Different,
So
right? Isn't it just different? It's just a different kind of love. Like
yeah,
there is something about
it's an extension of who you created. It's just amazing.
You know, Monica, I haven't even connected it that way. I just know that when I see my grandkids, all I gotta do is see their faces. And it's
Yeah, I know.
making me
But
stop. Like, it's weird. And everybody that was grandparents told me, like, it's just different. You know, you're gonna feel differently. And I believed it, but there was no way to describe what it is. And I still don't have a way to describe it
well,
because it's a different feeling.
I see it as, you know how they say when you have children that that's your heart walking around, right? Well, that's the second part of his heart walking around.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, that's his heart now. And so you see the two hearts.
yeah. Yeah. What was you gonna say?
I beg to differ.
Wait,
I
wait.
think I can just talk loud. I think that what happens is, you're not gonna have to watch them, so you're happy to see them.
Yeah, that definitely is part of
Yeah,
it.
it's
No,
probably,
I
Yeah,
don't
it
think
is
you know,
part of
these are
it.
my kids, and I love them. And then you don't
Yeah.
see them often, and
Yeah.
so when you see them again, they're like, Grandma, Grandma, I love you, because you don't see them often.
Listen, and I know there's something to that because I can tell you from here. When I see my grandkids and they run with, oh my gosh, the world is an okay place. It don't matter,
right.
it don't matter what's going on, but the world is an okay place
They
because
make you smile.
oh my goodness. And they genuinely do. And I think, something to what you just said too, Cheryl, is the fact that I don't have to be the disciplinarian.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
I do.
they see me as the fun person. Oh, when Yaya come, the party is on and cracking. It's going down. You know what I mean? We got and my oldest granddaughter, she started me doing science experiments and different things. So now, and then it led to crafts and all this kind of stuff.
Oh,
So when she
nice.
see me coming, it's time to have fun. You know what I mean? But I don't and listen, and they both know that I will discipline them. Like I'm not that far gone.
Yeah, okay.
Um, because it can be, right? But my son, if you ask him, he'll tell you, oh no, you just got all soft and stuff. He just, oh, it's just terrible. Who are you? If I ever did it. In fact, he's so crazy. He lucky Di is not here tonight because Diane will tell you at my birthday party, we stayed at a ranch for a couple of days. And he telling them, oh, I died. Y'all don't even know. Y'all don't understand what I went through. I died a couple of times messing with her. Boy, but then my cousin, that her birthday is today, if you ask her, he was spoiled rotten and didn't get enough whoopings. So go figure, right? Go
You
figure.
should you should have told them, but did you die? You're right here.
You're here. Listen, Monica, with him, I've learned I just ignore that kind of stuff. I don't even pay him no mind. That one day he gonna tell me, well, I think you like them better than me. I said, I do. I sure do. Don't even question it no more. That's just the love of a grandmother. That's just the way that goes. Don't even
I
don't
know.
even question. It's nothing to question. I can guarantee. I can tell you straight up. Yes, that is the truth. And so I just deal with that. But I think I was telling a young man on Sunday. I said one of the things to pay attention to is this. You got to remember that your mother was a whole person before she ever had you. They had a whole life, a whole set of circumstances, their own personal traumas, setbacks, disappointments, dreams that died.